Welcome to the Bourbon and Brands podcast, where we have simple conversations with successful people over a glass of our favorite brown spirit, bourbon. Well, it is the one and only, the Queen of Parker County, the world famous Tara Stark. I'm so excited that this day's come and I get to have some whiskey with you and just chat a little bit more about your story and let everyone listening kind of get an idea of who you are, because what's it been, like 7-8 years now of knowing one another?
It has. I was trying to remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah. And you're the type of person that when someone meets you, it's like they can't get enough of just spending time around you, because it's just fun. You make conversation fun, and your stories just resonates. And so we'll get into the story, but let me pour us a little bit of this 1792, which is what we've got today. And this is a fresh crack, is what we call a fresh crack on this here. This is not the first time I've had a small batch, of course, but this is the first time this bottle's been opened. So we got to get this on the...
Perfect.
Oh, yes, that sound is what we live for. So 1792, of course, is in Bardstown, Kentucky. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, distillery in Bardstown. Used to be called Barton Distilling, I believe. And there you go, ma'am.
Perfect.
And they but not too terribly long ago, changed it to 1792 Barton Distilling. So, but this stuff is like some of my favorite whiskey.
Well, thank you.
So 1792 is, like, as far as a brand that has all these different offerings, which we have a handful of them here, is just kind of one of my go-tos. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you like whiskeys with higher rye content in them, because they tend to be a little more spicier. You get like more peppery flavors and a little more burn, but it's not necessarily from the ethanol. It's all that spice. But this is what they consider to be a high rye mash bill at 18%. But I think it tastes fantastic. And I'm not a super big fan of ryes, but the small batch, as you sip on it, let me know what you think. I'm excited to see what you think. Give it a try. It is, it's kind of one that I just kind of keep in rotation.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I can't wait any longer. I need to get into your story. Okay. Because it's amazing. Now, when I first met you, I think is actually when you told me your story, which was cool. And so let's kind of start in the beginning.
Okay.
And for those who don't know, your niche and your passion, your calling seems to be within the real estate industry, which you just absolutely crush it in DFW and West Fort Worth, and Parker County specifically is kind of where you hail from. But but you've absolutely found an absolute, like I say, a calling there, because you just do such a great job, which is how I originally met you. But the story of how you got into real estate is kind of super interesting to me. So kind of start there, I guess. Sure. And kind of tell us how it all got started.
Absolutely. It's about 17 years ago, at least 17, 18 years ago. And through a life change, as life happens and things occur, through divorce, fell back on the only thing I knew how to do, and that was ride a horse. Mm-hmm. And at that age, 38, 9 years old, it's like, I cannot continue to do this. And it's like, Lord, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what it was going to be, or what the next step was. I had a child, and it's like, how do I provide? What am I going to do? I cannot continue riding the horses. It was just too hard on the body, and I wasn't getting anywhere with it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, someone had been at a cutting. I had been at a cutting with them, ride cutting horses. And I went home, and I found out later they had passed away by stepping off of a cutting horse. And I went into a panic of, what if something happened to me? What would happen to my child situation? And that kind of started the spark of I need to find something else.
Right.
And so I started driving around looking at land. I had resigned from my position and decided I'm not going to go back to work for another ranch. and I wanted to do something else, and started driving around looking at land. And actually what I had done was move back home with my parents, something not a lot of people are willing to do, but that was the choice I had to make in order to go pursue something different. And driving around, I thought, I have a little bit of money saved. I'm going to go put it in a piece of land because everything is rising around Parker County at the time, and at least it'll be safe. And then I can go do something else. And when I was driving around, it was like an just this epiphany of God saying, you need to get in real estate because that's where they know where everything is first, and that's what you need to do. I drove straight home and called the only agent I knew at the time and said, well, what do I do next? Yeah. And he directed me to a real estate school. I was enrolled within 2 weeks, and off I went.
And here you are. I know that there's probably been a lot of ups and downs in real estate since then. Of course, trying to think back 17 years ago, that was pre the market crashing and the recession.
Yes,
so that
2004, everything was booming. And, every day something was more expensive each day as it went. Yeah. And it was just rocking and rolling.
Yeah. And so you've been through a lot in real estate. Which the limited experience I have in working with real estate agents with Tormax, the other company that I'm a partner in, is, the last 8 years, really getting to know real estate agents. I've seen a lot come and go, right? Because you have these housing market booming times where everybody wants to become a real estate agent. They want to make some money. They feel like it's just going to be a super flexible job for them, and they can make a lot of money really fast. And they get into it and they go a couple months without a paycheck, and then they're out, or a market goes down or balances or whatever, and they're out. And so for somebody to be in real estate for that long is really a testament to the things that you're doing right, to build a team, to build a process that can withstand those ups and downs. So what have you found to kind of be your bits and pieces of your secret sauce that has helped your teams survive this long and find success in real estate?
I always felt like the horse industry actually prepared me for what real estate was like.
Okay.
Because you can wake up one day and your barn is empty and there's nothing to ride, because people can change their minds, and you wake up every day basically self-employed and or unemployed, should I say. And the real estate's the same way, and understanding how commissions or the payoff, like we were mentioning that we were at the Cutting Horse Futurity, and it's just starting, and it's a 2-year process to get those horses trained and show up here. In 2 years are riding on 2.5 minutes. And it's a lot of highs and lows. So it prepares you mentally, is the first step, and saving money and not spending money before you actually have it. Because a lot of people will get a listing and they're like, well, it's going to earn me this much when it sells, but that's a long process to get to the closing table. And I'm very good at not spending my money before I earn it.
All right.
And so those are some characteristics I grew up with, actually, that really made it mentally okay to be in this industry. Yeah. And I think that's really, quite frankly, and perseverance, and just never give up. Yeah. And also being okay with things when they didn't go right. And it's like next, and you just keep going to the next one and get up and go again. You fall down, you get up. Yeah.
So it sounds like, that cowboy or that cowgirl grit is really, it's, you grow up with that, and you grow up in a tough environment where you gotta, whether you feel like it or not, get up and go out and feed and ride and do all the things that, seem like old school values nowadays. But man, those are invaluable, because they are what equip you to be able to do hard things and to do the job all the way through. And so that's really cool. And so I'm curious, the last couple of years have been, we've been dealing with this pandemic, and I don't even want to talk about it because I'm sick of hearing about it. But I'm curious, like, what have your last couple of years been like in real estate? What volume have you been working with?
It's been phenomenal. We've actually increased our volume last 2 years in a row, and the best years ever. And the same thing, it seems like I do extremely well when the rubber meets the road and I need to step up and do something. You know, going back and thinking back through times of in the '08, at that point in time when that occurred, when the crash occurred, I had my best year ever. And it's the mindset of I'm going to persevere. And it doesn't matter what happens. People still buy and sell homes. Yeah. It just depends on what they're going to sell for.
Right.
And when you can have the ability to get up and show up every day, some people don't, is an asset. And when you can show that and share that with people. So when March 13th hit, Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, gave a speech to his people, to us, and he spoke to us on Monday. And I have a picture of sitting on a horse watching him give the speech. And it was talking about being prepared for what may come, because we had no idea what was going to happen to the industry, the economics and so on and so forth. And it was a matter of the mindset of save, cut, being aware of your finances and not overspending, and check on our people. It was all about the people. Checking and making the care calls to our people and seeing how they were. And that's what I started doing. I remember the first person I picked up the phone and checked on them. How are you doing? Just want to check on you. And that's what we went to doing, was checking on our people. And what we discovered, and I know you and I talked about this a long time ago, changing our slogan as time went on, as I was building a team, that it wasn't, we didn't have the selling the sunsets and buying your dream home. We realized we were making a difference in people's lives as life was transitioning. And what was so interesting of when COVID hit, people started making life decisions more rapidly. And they needed somebody to help them. And they wanted to move. There was a couple that had not seen their grandchildren, and all they could do was FaceTime them. They had no reason to still continue to be here. And they said, you know what? We're going to sell our property. It's okay. Wow. We're going to move to where the grandkids are because we don't get to see them. That was happening over and over. And so being prepared, talking about Tour Max, your other company, it was you already start sensing what's coming, and we had already started ordering some of those 3D tours to help people be able to look at property without actually having to go into it. So we tried to stay ahead of what we needed in order to help people.
That's incredible, because a lot of real estate agents catchphrases, and I've worked with a lot of them, of course, filming their branding material or whatever, and it's always the catchphrase is that it's all about the relationships, which I would say most of them, that's true, but when the rubber meets the road, to use your term, that's where you really see if it's about the relationship, when there's really nothing in it for you. Calling and checking on clients who they're not even looking to buy or sell a house, but you're just calling them to see if they're okay. That's what's impressive about you and the way you run your business. And so how cool is that? I mean, to be making a difference in people's lives that goes far beyond just making a transaction or caring about a money amount. And so what other marketing strategies have you found your team kind of developing as far as in a big hot market like we've had the last year or 6 months, when everybody's house prices are crazy, everybody was a real estate agent now, the competition gets tougher. So what are you doing marketing wise to kind of stay top of mind with clients and people out there?
What's interesting is in the '08 through 2015, probably, you might have property set on the market 2 years, depending on the uniqueness of it, or for sure 6 months. But that was normal. Your sell times on some of the bigger stuff that had land with it, normal homes would take 3 to 4 months. It just depended on where you were, the location. And so you had the opportunity to actually market and do things and play with these properties to promote them. And it changed so rapidly. And it was like the Matador, those 3D tours, and Zoom. We became, Zoom became our friend, and it's, so much you had to learn so quickly. And how quickly people evolved, and if you were evolving with it in the changing times, and And people became very comfortable with doing business FaceTime, looking at properties, never looking at them and purchase them sight unseen. And the trust that takes in order to help people. The trust is the connection when you're meeting strangers in their home for the first time and they invite you into their home. And that's so important that you thank them for inviting me into your home because they're trusting a stranger to walk in, and for the majority of people, it is the largest financial investment that they own.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to move across country to go be near their kids, and they need our help.
Yeah.
And it was just very interesting how many people we helped do that this past year and a half. But so that you had to move quickly, and the business changed quickly when houses started once. Everybody became settled and houses started selling in minutes instead of months, and multiple offers and handling situations differently. And the key is, for me, always keeping our people focused on their goal and why they decided to buy or sell in the first place and why that's important to them. Because no matter the transaction, everybody thinks it's wonderful and easy right now. It's not. It's a different kind of process.
Yeah.
And it takes a different art and skill to get through it. And so it's still keeping them, well, why is it important to them to sell and buy and move, and helping them make and move forward and make those decisions.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's going to, I've had this thought the last month or two, really, is it seems like everyone's become so comfortable with this kind of, and I hate this phrase because it was thrown around all the time when the pandemic hit, new normal. Right? Like I could just jump off a bridge. But the new normal. And it seems like everybody's become so comfortable with it to where, do you think that trend will, like these trends will just be the new normal? Like as far as looking at houses remotely and
I think
and Zoom meetings.
They've become so comfortable with it being okay.
Yeah.
And then there was a standard before, an expectation of this is how it has to work. And now they've discovered it doesn't have to. We became, when it happened, like, are the notaries going to be able to go to the houses? These things going to be able to occur? And what's going to get shut down? And who's going to be allowed to go to work? I mean, we flipped through that and immediately.
Right.
And connecting with our title companies and our people, what's going to happen, and how are we going to use our professional vendors, our photographers and everybody else, and how are we going to help the people?
Yeah.
So that was also some of the first things we did. So you're talking about branding. It became the client care, and then the experience, and realizing too that things can become cold and detached because you're not seeing people.
Right.
And we also discovered when you're growing a team and you have different units that they were not getting to stay connected to you as much as possible. The face-to-the-face meetings weren't occurring.
Right, yeah.
And people need a connection. And so experience became a very important thing to us last year in making certain that the people were connected and that they knew we cared and that they knew what we were actually here for. Instead of for the deal, we were actually for them and what was going on in their lives and keeping that foremost.
Yeah. And it's so weird for me as a tech guy. You would think that I love that technology, but I really don't, because I'm so old school in the way I like to handle relationships. Is, I still have people that I want to meet with, and I always throw out first, hey, do you want to grab coffee, or do you want to grab a drink, or do you want to get some lunch? And it's usually like, oh, do you have time for a quick Zoom? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not really exciting to me. I don't really get to really know you like I would. And so I really, it's inevitable. We're probably going to be just virtual robots within a few years. But man, I miss just those conversations that can go far past just a Zoom call for sure.
Yeah, we've discovered too through our conventions, it was canceled, or part of our conventions. We had just completed our what we call family reunion through our real estate convention with Keller Williams, and that had just completed last year in February. We canceled the one in August that's in Austin because of the concerns, and everything started being virtual. Everything we started doing, and so now they're never going to go 100% away from the virtual part. Yeah, part of it will be in person if you choose to, but you have the option to do virtual. And so it will always stay a piece of now what occurs. We're noticing even in teaching classes through the office that some people prefer in person, and there's a lot of people that it's a lot easier. You get comfortable lazier maybe, and you can just, I need to hurry up to catch up so we can get something else.
No, yeah, you're doing just fine. You pace yourself over there, okay? We don't need you getting all sloppy on us, okay? You're trying to keep up with me.
It's like, I want to try the next one.
So let's try this sweet wheat,
okay.
Because the name does give it away. It is a lot more, I would say, tame on the sharpness. That doesn't have quite the bite that the rye does, or that the small batch and the rest of these do, because it's got a little more wheat content. So this is one of my favorites, of course. Harder to find. There you go. Sorry. That was probably, I'm used to pouring for myself.
I'll throw it out.
Do not throw that out.
Pour it in your glass. Okay, cheers.
Do you want to pour some in mine? Okay, well, just a little bit. Wow, okay. You're trying to get me drunk now. I love the sweatshirt, by the way. It says whiskey on it.
It does. I bought this just for you.
You probably just bought that just for this podcast.
No, I seriously did.
Okay. Now tell me where you bought it.
Christmas in Cowtown. And,
okay. My wife needs one of those.
In fact, I told her why I was buying it. And I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on.
Okay.
And I told her that I was going to wear it for this whiskey tasting. And so I've got her card.
Oh, my gosh.
Because she wanted me to be sure to tag her in a photo.
I'm going to not only tag this woman, but I am going to go buy my wife one of those. Because, I don't know that I could pull that off. It's probably more of something that she could pull off. But the name of the place is Love Liss. Lyss. Alyssa Nurdin. So I hope I said your name right. But that's an awesome sweater. Real quick, when you started 17 years ago, was it with Keller Williams?
Yes.
Okay, so why have you been with Keller Williams so long?
I love the company so much.
Okay, because Keller Williams, I don't think there's any secret that there's a plethora of options for real estate agents, and there's new ones popping up. They're popping up all the time, and I know you've had some great offers.
Yes.
So what is it about Keller Williams that keeps you there?
And the people that also go on their own and create their own industry. Right. Keller Williams has a model of God family business. That was the first and foremost thing.
Okay.
They also had a growth model and a teaching system and getting to certain levels. And it's like, that's where I want to go. The day I walked into Keller Williams' office in Fort Worth, they had us back in that time taking these personality tests. That was the first thing you did. And it felt like for the first time in the world that somebody understood me and that it wasn't just me. And because it was actually a creation of a personality profile that actually works really good in real estate. And the things that I had always thought I needed to work on were actually very important pieces of becoming a great real estate agent.
Yeah.
So it was a breath of fresh air and opening. It also, they are very much a teaching, sharing company. The culture, they talk about culture and sharing, and that also became something that became important to me to make a difference in the people's lives. And I feel like the legacy you leave is not about your financial assets, but about the people's lives you change and you touch. And you can do that by telling and sharing your story and encouraging others to be the greatest they can be.
Yeah. I
also began reading. I had never been a big reader, so we had a book club there that our broker taught. And I became just engulfed with books and reading. And again, it was to become more. And whether those were Christian-based books or self-learning books, self-teaching, whatever that was, motivational videos. Jim Rohn is one of my favorites of all time. And one of my greatest favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Wow. And that's crazy because Anthony is reading that book right now, and he said that I have to read it, which I will be. And I'm excited about that because I have not read that book.
But it's dry, but it's written so long ago between himself and, to me, Jim Rohn. It's like those were the gurus that everybody else followed after.
Right, because it was written like back in like the 40s or something, or like a long time ago. So, so cool to have literature that you can still get stuff from that's written so long ago. because of just how much time has changed, how many things have changed in business, but there's still
and the
values.
philosophies and the laws are still the same.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, a lot of new entrepreneurs don't get that. They think it's, business times have changed, so business is done different. There's nothing to learn from people who've been doing
basics.
it. Yeah.
It's all the same.
So
just the lever that you pull in order to do it changes.
Yeah. But you went back to your first love of riding horses.
Yes.
Recently.
So in order to get into real estate, I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I always felt like the Lord blessed me with that decision because horses were all I wanted to do my whole life.
Right.
My father was a horse trainer. We grew up on big ranches. And so riding those horses was how I breathed.
Yeah.
And so making that decision to get into real estate, I attempted for the first year or two to do them both, which caused me not to do either well.
Yeah.
And knew that this was the path that I had to go in order to provide for my child. And that was a responsibility and a desire I had to do. And so I put the horses aside, and I felt like the Lord really blessed me with not missing it and not having a yearning or desire or lack of emptiness with going through that process. That was a huge gift to me. And so that I could go persevere and go do this and be on purpose with this. And then it took so long to get the full circle and believe that it was possible. And it's a wealthy industry.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, effort, energy, money. And I only wanted to do it what I considered the right way. And my coach pushed me to at least put a picture on the vision board that it was possible, that it might be possible. So a few years ago, I did that. I put the horse on the board again. And I bought my first horse in mid-February, right before COVID hit. And so I stepped back in, got on my first horse, rode her one time, and then went to a show late February and rode her for the second time in a show. And then within weeks, everything else was canceled. I had 3 goals. Because it's
stay on the horse.
Stay on the horse was first goal. Don't fall off.
That's a good goal. Actually
put a run together. Yeah. I did have a goal of marking a 216, which is a very decent score in the industry. I marked 214. So wow. So went to the next one, improved, and it's like, okay, I have one more goal to improve here. Yeah. And so, but then they canceled everything. It's like, no.
But now you're crushing it in both. Yeah. Like you got the real estate thing booming, and when you sell a bazillion ranches a year like you do, you can afford whatever kind of horse and set up, and you've got probably the top of the line there. But the futurity, which is a huge deal in Fort Worth and really in the cutting horse industry, and it's like the Super Bowl of the cutting horse industry, isn't it?
Yes, it's our Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and so what time of year is that, and when is that, and are you in it?
Just started 2 days ago.
Okay.
So it runs for over 3 weeks, about 3 weeks, ends December 11th.
Okay.
I actually have an entry paid, an open slot paid for, and I have been on this search. So if anybody out there knows of a horse, I'm looking for a horse. Okay. I do not have a horse yet.
What's wrong with the horse you got now? I hope he's not listening, or she, because she's going to be like, what? You've got a horse right here.
So I have sold my horse.
Oh, okay.
And so
just wasn't cutting it?
No,
pun intended.
We've no, we've had great success. I've actually owned and sold 2 in the past year and a half, and so the first mare went out of the her age bracket, so it was traded for another opportunity for a young horse, and then just making a decision after he went through his 4-year-old year. The horses that are showing this next week, all through this next few weeks, could have never been shown before. They're 3 years old, and their debut is the show, so they can never have been shown before. So I've been quietly looking. Now I'm persevering looking.
So I mean, it's already started, but you can go find a horse like next week and jump in that thing. Really?
Yeah. Because I have a slot paid for.
Because you're Tara Stark. Like you can just get in there.
And so if I find one, I do. If I don't, I don't. But I've got an eye on.
Well, I hope you find something.
Thank you.
Let's get you, since you're empty over there, let's get you some of the 12-year.
Perfect.
This is relatively new from them, honestly. They haven't had the 12-year out for as much as these other options.
Perfect.
There you go. So, You just have one daughter, right? Lauren, and no one else.
No one else.
She's enough.
She's enough.
She's enough for you. You had her and you're like, okay, that's all I can handle.
Broke the mold. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, she is so amazing. And a part of your team in real estate. And she kind of, no diss to you, but she seems like the anchor, all right? Like she kind of keeps everybody in line over there.
Thank God. Yeah. Yes, she does.
So she has the inside scoop because she kind of understands what you want and need in a team. And so she does a great job kind of keeping that together. And so, and kind of looking forward to the future, is real estate something that you think that you'll be in for forever, or is there something else that you think that's out there for you?
So I don't think you ever get out of real estate. I think it's once you're in it, it's part of you, and there's other opportunity that you get to pursue because you're in real estate, and whether that's different industries, different opportunities, whether it's in title or lending, those types. I see people get into the appraisal side, but title is something that is interesting, but also into the actual owning of real estate and pursuing a wealth through real estate. And we have knowledge there. And so that's something that's really cool, and creating different streams of income. That's something that at my age, I didn't get in this I think I was 40 when I started. So giving the age away there, but it's looking at different options. I don't think I ever stopped selling or helping people.
Right.
But it's building a team such that you can take time, because time is what I can't replace.
Right.
And that's
you can't buy.
Right. And so the years that you spend, and it's very important. We talk so much about having this one life, and you only get one. And what are we doing with it? And if you work just for work's sake, yes, we all have to pay the bills and to get ahead and put a roof over our head, but there has to be more than just that. And so it's a battle, to keep that also in the path. And that's what's so cool about what you're doing, and having fun with pursuing other things and building a team such that it runs itself, and you've created this such that you can pursue other things. And that would be something that's interesting to me.
Yeah, because the dynamic that we run into, and I know you've run into this, and I ran into this at Tormax as well, is that the moment that someone else shows up, to that door, to that meeting, to that listing appointment, they're like, well, where's Tara? Right. And so you have to build a team that is not duplicates of you by any means, because you want them to be themselves, but that is just as confident. So when they step in, that person is assured that, hey, the job's going to get done the same way.
Because we went through that. Yeah. It's like, but where's Wes?
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, where's Anthony? But wait, where are they?
Where's Christian?
Because you get close, you get comfortable.
Yeah.
And so it is teaching your people and that this is the standard upon which the Tara Stark Real Estate Group does business.
Right.
And this is the expectation, and this is what we want our people to be treated like. And it's creating the playbook such that anyone that comes in can be handed, and they at least see the stream of, this is how we take care of business. And it just grows every day. And
the saying that one of my mentors early on in business, a very successful entrepreneur, told me that stuck with me is always be training your replacement, right? So that was part one. And number two, never be afraid to hire someone that's better than you.
Always.
And those are the two hardest things to do as a business owner, because you want to be the best because you're the leader, right? And so hiring somebody that has better skill at a certain thing than you is intimidating for some. But man, if I could do it all over again with some of these businesses I've been a part of, I would have done that from the get-go.
Right.
Is find somebody that knows way more than I do and hire them. Yeah. Because there's no shame in seeing yourself as, hey, I don't know as much as you, but I can pay you to do this for me and take this off my plate.
Leverage
yourself. Yeah. And so it's that's priceless information for any entrepreneur getting started.
It is. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
And, who we say a lot, I keep saying we, and it's we at Keller Williams. I later moved to the office out in Aledo, Weatherford, and who you surround yourself with matters. And when you are around people that are also growth minded and pursuing life in a big way and always pushing the boundaries, it pushes you as well. And so that's why I love, you asked earlier, why be there so long? That's why it's, I can go connect with people across the United States, even in this, whether it's in the state of Texas, people that are massive teams. Not that I want to build a massive teams, but they have massive thinking, and they have created brands and systems such that it makes life easier.
Yeah.
And it's always growing and changing, constantly growing and changing. If you're not evolving, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah. And so, how important is it for a real estate agent to have their own brand, to have their own identity, their own story, and not just be, I am Wes Ireton with Keller Williams.
Sure.
You know, how important that is, how important is that for you and what you see?
So that was also another thing why I loved Keller Williams, is because they allow us to not only create a brand, a logo, if you will, but they allow us to be our own president, CEO of our own company within the umbrella of Keller Williams.
Right.
Gary Keller constantly pushes that. And that was, again, a vision that I had getting in. I could see what I wanted to create. And then it's formed over time. And for me, my brand is who I am. And it's, when people meet me, they should expect something. It's not my logo. It's what does that represent?
Right,
and we wanted that logo to represent something, what I stood for. And whether that's the trust and integrity and what they got every time I showed up mattered. Yeah. And so that when they meet me, it's real and that it's the same. And that's true for my entire team. And so that is what we always constantly are honing and working on. And remember to be us. And it can get hard, especially in this social world we're in, to stay true to who you are and know that you can do you better than anybody else can.
Absolutely. And what do you think about these youngsters or noobs jumping into the real estate industry?
Incredible.
Like what do you, I guess if you were to give them any little bits of advice from a veteran, what would you say?
Yeah. So what I think is really cool about people in the industry today is, you know, Facebook and none of that stuff existed when I got in. They were just getting out of the actual books of MLS books. You know, MLS was not very old itself.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to turn on a computer when I got in the industry. I had only ridden horses all my life. And so they have, in the creation of teams and creating a business such that you can step out of it to where you're the owner of that company is a new mindset that didn't exist at that time either. And that was also what made it a little more difficult for myself to hand my quote unquote people off to other folks, is because the relationship was with myself and not the company. Yeah. And so you have young people today that are so broad-minded and they're changing everything so quickly, but that they are creating a business right now that already encompasses all of that. There's no changing. It's just starting that way. Yeah. And so they don't have a mental block, if you will, about having to change any of that. They are just creating it that way to start with. So I think it's incredible. Yeah. And start at such a young age is to, if you want it, go pursue it. There's the sky's the limit.
One thing we talk a lot about at Brandland is the importance, at least when it comes to real estate, is any agents that we've met with in the past that say, hey, I want to get started, building my business, is that we encourage them to identify a niche, right? I had a guy in our office just 2 weeks ago. He just got out of the military, just got his real estate license. And he's like, hey, I need some headshots. I need this, I need that. I want to get started. I'm starting my business. And I said, okay, well, what's your niche? Like who is your target demographic? And he said, well, anybody wanting to buy or sell a house. And I said, okay, I understand that. But who is your audience, because there's a tendency for agents to say, well, I'm just going to advertise to everyone. And if anyone wants to buy or sell, I'm their person. I'm the one. Yeah. And I understand that, hey, if I'm a real estate agent, if anybody wants to buy or sell, sure, I would like to help you. But you have to define your audience, right? And you've done that well within the Western. Yeah. And
I almost had
lifestyle.
to unbrand myself for a while. In fact, I quit. There were certain times where it was like they only thought I was farm and ranch and didn't sell actual houses. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And so, because I was so branded that way that people only thought of me that way. And
so how have you found a balance then?
So it is through marketing, and it is through the social media campaigns, which Lauren is over all of that. And what was so really cool about having her on the team is she knew me well enough, and I'm a control freak, that I wanted it to all look a certain way. And I didn't want to look what I call realtory, templated. I wanted it to look like me and what we represented. And so that is always on purpose, and very controlling about the photo shoots, the photos. Even now, what I am seeing through the MLS, people taken with iPhones in the dark, mess everywhere, because it doesn't matter, because it sells in 2 minutes and nobody cares. And so right now, there seems to be some falling off of a standard of what is expected from some agents. That hasn't changed for us. We're going to keep raising the bar and setting that standard of wanting more. What can we do more for our people? And it doesn't matter if it is a $150,000 listing or a $150 million listing, that we set that standard for everyone. Everyone deserves the same.
Yeah.
And I decided very early on, my first 6 months, what I did want to sell and what I didn't want to sell and what I wanted it to look like. So everything I did, every postcard I sent out, I wanted it to have a certain look.
Yeah.
And where it represented elegance and luxury. Luxury was very important. So we sell a lot of luxury, what I call luxury estates, larger homes on land, gentleman ranches, if you will, in Parker County. Yeah. And that became quite a niche, as well as the equestrian facilities.
Yeah. So what's I'm just curious, what is your favorite ranch that you've sold? Now, let's just pretend like none of these people are listening, okay? Because we don't want to offend anyone. But there's got to be one that stands out that says, hey, I would live here every day of my life and be extremely excited.
There's been several.
I know, but let's try to whittle it down to one or two.
Okay, two. Number one would be a place called Kipling Lear Farm.
Okay, where was that?
Aledo.
Okay.
It was 100 acres in Aledo.
Okay.
Gorgeous home with an indoor arena, the most cool barn, and it was an older home. It used to be a thoroughbred farm, and went to Arabians and then dressage horses, but it sits right on Bear Creek, and it just was stunning, beautiful, quiet, and peaceful. Off of Go Forth Road. Yeah. Out 377 is where it sits, really close to town. So I've just absolutely loved that home, that place, the richness that it offered of just walking in the front door. We held a Kentucky Derby party there, actually.
What was the one that it was white? It was just a classic plantation style, maybe home. And I came out to that one, and we did some filming, and it had that really cool old school barn. You've sold a million ranches, so you have no idea what I'm saying, but it came a long drive, and remember we had to park out on the street, like across the street, and like we're off in the bar ditch, and
that's what we do with all of them.
I know. And I don't know how to explain it any better, but we did a super cool video, and just the interior was a really long, it had a really long living room and the kitchen, and it had that little see-through oven, like brick oven almost. I don't know. Okay.
So I know we did a really cool video and we threw it together last minute of the pool and the kids jumping in the pool and the party, and we threw a party and we did that video. Okay.
No, not that one.
No, it actually was Anthony's.
This one had a little dressage type setup there. And anyway.
That's going to be Kipling Lear Farm. No,
it didn't have an indoor arena. But in the video, I had footage inside the barn, and it had like English saddles, and it looked really cool setup.
That we sold that this past year.
Yeah, it was like a year ago.
The Sheffields, that is south of Weatherford, 60 acres.
Yeah.
It was stunning. Oh my gosh, yes, I love that house. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was old school. It was old school.
It was so cool.
They had copied that off a plantation home in Louisiana. Yeah. So, that was really cool. The stunning pieces of that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and that's another thing that you do well is you tell the story of the home, because you understand that that's what people are buying, is they're buying like the vision of them living there.
Yep.
They're not buying like 2x4s and drywall. They're buying like how this place in their mind is going to make them look and feel.
Right. For their family and their lifestyle and what they want to portray. And the other piece is the one that's in Silverado on the Brazos now.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely Mr. Taylor Sheridan now owns.
Oh, yes. Wow. Yes. I love that place too.
Yeah.
So are you a Yellowstone fan?
Yes.
Okay.
It took me a while.
Now, season 4 just come out, right?
Yes.
And I'm either too poor or too dumb to figure out how to watch it. But we had all of the previous ones on Peacock.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the new one's on there or not yet. But it was shot right down here in Fort Worth, right? Parts of it?
So parts of, so what they've been, the cutting horse industry has been highlighted through it, the reining horse world, and Taylor is part of that world. And he purchased that place I'm mentioning. And then he also purchased a actual facility to have shows and events. And it's been incredible. The impact he's made on Parker County. And so the 1883 has been shot on some land there nearby in Weatherford, and they came to Granbury, downtown Granbury, and blocked off the streets, Sam Elliott's and everything, and everybody went bonkers over that. And then he came to downtown and to the stockyards in Fort Worth and did some shots there. So it's been really cool. He's brought a lot of notoriety to our town, so we're thrilled with that.
Now, you're a single gal. So did you go down there and kind of like
I was working. I don't remember
Sam
what
Elliott
the heck I was doing. I think I was actually in Idaho or Oregon at the time at a horse show, and I was like, oh, I want to go down there.
I need to be down there. I need to meet
he's
my
like
future
my guy.
husband. It could be Sam. It
I
could
should have flown home.
Could have been Rip.
Yes.
I mean, these guys are creating quite the buzz, from the ladies.
So they will be in December, what's that, Friday, 4th, 3rd, for the Carity Foundation.
Oh, okay.
They're going to come in just like they did last 2 years ago. They came in and they showed their horses for the racing.
Who is we?
So Taylor Sheridan did, Rip did, Jimmy did, Mo did. And so it's really fun. And one of the hands in the bunkhouse is coming this time for sure, I know. It's like we keep wanting Beth,
Yeah. Can I'm just going to have to hang around with you during that time and just kind of be there.
So we were very fortunate to get close and, with some of these folks.
Right? Yeah. That is cool.
It's really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I still haven't seen any parts of the 4th season, so I don't know if everybody's still alive currently. But
so far, so good. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't watched it, but
at the last
first episode was incredible.
The last episode I saw, everybody was pretty much dead. Like everyone got shot or blown up.
It was kind of like Who Shot Larry Hackman, on Who Shot JR, but it's the way they left it cliffhanger. Yeah.
Casey got blown up. The dad's laying in the road, shot up, and I'm just like, okay, this is over. It's over for him. But it sounds like everybody's doing okay.
It was exciting. It was very exciting.
If they're planning to come to an event, everybody's still alive. So that's good. That's a good thing. What do you think that did for Fort Worth, though? I mean that probably did so much for that city. The stockyards was shut down for a month, but I mean, it was. What
I've seen, what's been interesting, of course, Faith Hill, and Tim McGraw, Ryan Bingham came in and played a little small concert there in Weatherford at the last horse show there at Silverado on the Brazos. And Faith Hill and Tim were there because they were doing some shooting. And so bringing all that in, the Western lifestyle is what it has influenced. The drawback to Westerns, which I grew up with that. I mean, John Wayne was my hero. Yeah. And so it brought a lot of attention and notoriety back to Western wear, Western china, Western furniture. It's affected massive industries. Yeah. And just that it's okay to be Western. Right. It used to just be here in Nashville, you know.
Used to be like, oh, you guys are a bunch of redneck
Hicks,
hillbillies or Hicks, whatever.
Now we're cool. Kids.
Now we're cool, And I include myself in there because I want you to guess what my favorite show growing up was. And if my mom is listening to this, she will attest to this. My favorite show, I watched every single one of them growing up, was not some cartoon, was not some kid show. What do you think it was?
Well, I grew up on Saturday mornings watching all the black and whites. And I watched Rawhide.
You're just a tiny bit older than me.
Rawhide and Gunsmoke were my two.
Okay.
On Saturday mornings, we didn't watch the cartoons. We watched all the B Westerns. All the John Wayne B Westerns. But it was, Clint Eastwood. And
so think early 80s. What do you think?
80s.
What do you think I was? Well, these weren't filmed in the early 80s,
okay.
but like that's when I was growing up watching these. But they were still. I think they were. No, they weren't black and white. What do you think? I'm gonna give you a hint.
You're gonna have to.
I forget his first name. Michael Landon, maybe.
Oh yeah, Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. Guess.
Yes, I grew up.
What do you think it is? No, not Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm talking Western. Not
Bonanza.
Bonanza.
I watched that too.
Oh my gosh!
All those, all Saturday morning. All Saturday morning was just
Bonanza was
back
my
to back
jam
to back.
growing up. Like I wanted to be a cowboy.
The lady that owned her own place, Spitfire.
In Bonanza?
No.
Oh.
He was the single dad and she was the single mom.
Oh.
So he was raising his sons, but there was
I don't know.
she had her own ranch, and what was the name of that show?
I know a lot of Spitfire women, and I don't know her though.
The woman that ended up playing on Dallas was the daughter to her, Barbara Stanwyck.
Okay.
What show was that? It was all that same era.
Okay. I don't
Trying
know.
to remember. But yeah, all those shows.
I didn't watch any of their shows, so that's why I don't know. I literally just watched Bonanza on repeat all the time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to
Lauren Green.
be little Joe Cartwright when I grew up. And then I moved out to Texas and got my own little horses.
But now you have your own little place.
Yeah.
And so life has changed a lot for you, and we've helped that along the way. Yeah.
Yes,
But,
and you've helped me to sell a place. And yeah, I would never live anywhere else than Texas.
Texas.
I mean, Texas is just, but it's scary because it's becoming not Texas to me.
We have to
close our borders.
we have to take a stand for what, and that's true in life, anything.
Oh man.
But for what we stand for, or we'll fall for anything, is the old line.
Yeah. And Texas used to be like,
it still is.
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
Speak forth.
But it is, but it's just that those people's voices have just gotten so
you get beat
muffled.
Down. You get beat down, and you just decide I'm going to have to just go take care of my family, and I'm just going to live anyway. And so we're getting infiltrated by the masses from all over the world.
Right. Yeah.
And they're escaping other things, and then you don't have to be a refugee or an immigrant to be escaping.
Right.
And we're getting people from California, Colorado, Arizona coming into Texas because of what we stand for and how our state is being run. And it's been very interesting selling real estate of how many California license plates are moving into our territory.
Yeah.
It's less expensive, but they're bringing their children here. They're buying homes sight unseen to get here. Mm-hmm. You can't get a U-Haul in California. Nothing against California, but it's a way of life that we offer, that we stand for today, and it's making sure we stand for it tomorrow too.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. I'm excited about the future, even though sometimes it does get to be a beat down, and I'm not even like a super political guy. I could care less about all that, but then when it starts to kind of really hit home, I'm like, okay, my ears perk up a little bit. I start trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, in real estate, you learn that you can't be political, and you stay middle of the road.
Yeah.
I say Switzerland a lot, and then that gets really hard because sometimes you can feel like you're either losing yourself or that you don't have a voice anymore because you serve the masses of people, yet you do have to stand for something.
Right.
And I think when people, I have found people that I can be for something instead of against something. Mm-hmm. So my Facebook page, everything we do is on purpose, and I want to portray a message of who I am, and so that people can see who I am, and they can know it without me being against anything. They can see what I'm for.
Yeah.
And so that's my positive way of moving that, of having a voice that way. And we're talking about single people and dates, and I can talk and I can say blessed and God did this and God did that. And I've had people stop me and go, I need you to know something. I'm an atheist. And within 30 minutes of a date, and they're like, and so I needed you to know that because I think this isn't going to work. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah,
thank you.
I could see how that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And so speaking of kind of going out and dating and things, this isn't really related to that, but as far as the whiskey side of things, when did you really start to appreciate whiskey? Now, we all grew up just drinking whiskey just for what it could do for us. But when did you start really like kind of dialing it in and really enjoying it from more of a connoisseur standpoint?
So probably 23 or so years ago. And it was actually through Hennessy, cognac.
Okay.
So very hard there, very hardcore there, but cognac. I'm very particular about the cognacs as well, but Hennessy is a favorite. And then I discovered that I liked things without ice or without water or without anything else added to them, just because of the sugar. Actually, I don't like it over ice because it changes it and it changes the flavor. And so just became very much sipping. And whether that's this or tequila, but it's I'd rather have it straight up than anything. But
there's one you got one more thing to try here. You pick full proof or single barrel. Which one you want to try? What's the
difference? I have no idea. So you know I like the first one.
Let me give you the full proof. Okay. And this is interesting. This may not be something that everybody knows that, and this particular full proof is a single barrel store pick by Goody Goody Liquor. If you want to sponsor the show, give me a shout.
Yay.
But full proof. So you've probably heard in whiskey before the term cask strength or barrel proof.
Yes.
And what that means is after the distilling process, they barrel it, and they can't, for bourbon, they can't barrel it any higher than 125 proof.
Okay.
So it goes in the barrel at 125 proof. And then they go and store it in a rick house, and they put the barrel up somewhere. And the proof usually goes up, and sometimes it'll go down from there. So it's either going to do one or the other depending on the climate and where it's at in the rick house. Without getting too nerdy, if it's really high up, it's going to get hotter because tin roofs and whatever, it's hotter up there and heat rises. And so that proof's usually going to go up. So when they go and empty that barrel out and go to bottle it, most expressions, they have their exact proof that people are used to, whether it's 90 proof or 100 proof or whatever. And so they proof it down to that exact amount and they put it in the bottles. Okay. Now, barrel proofs and cask strength is whatever it comes out of that barrel is what it is. If it's 130, if it's 140, if it's 120, whatever it is, we're putting it in there and that's what it is. So that's why you see cask strengths are they vary. Sometimes they're 129.2 or 133.9 or whatever, is because they're not diluting it at all. They're just putting it in the bottle. And a lot of people like cask strengths and stuff because you get a little higher proof and stuff. But what a lot of people don't know is that barrel proof and full proof are not the same thing.
Okay.
Barrel proof is, again, just taking whatever it is. What 1792 does with full proof is that they take it back to whatever they put it in the barrel at, which is 125 proof. So that right there is 125 proof. And every single bottle
that's good.
Of full proof is 125
that's
proof.
That's really good.
So a little bit of knowledge for you there. Now you can show off to your friends next time.
No, that's really good.
So 125 is what they have their full proof at. It is not a cask strength. It is not a full proof or barrel proof. It is a full proof, and that's what that means.
So what caused you to become such a connoisseur of whiskeys? What this route?
You know, whiskey is one of those things that part of my story is that I struggled with addiction in a different form growing up in my teen and early 20s, and it was drug related. It was, I would always chase a high in a different area. And so alcohol was never really something that I cared much about because I was like, why do I want to have to drink 15 beers? I can just take this one pill and feel the same way. I don't want to waste my time doing all that. And so whiskey and all these different things, I was never really interested in alcohol, which I think is a blessing in disguise because now later in life, it's not a vice of mine. I can actually enjoy it for what it is. And so, whiskey is one of those things that I've always enjoyed the flavor and the taste of and the process. I really get into the process of it and understanding what makes whiskeys unique to one another. And so I would say I was always the guy that had like 2 or 3 bottles, good bottles, but 2 or 3 bottles. And that was all. And I'd drink them till they're gone. And then I would go buy 2 or 3 more bottles and I would just keep doing that. And about a year or so ago, I began to collect like bottles. And so now I've got almost 200 bottles of whiskey that I own, and they're open bottles. There's a few that are closed, but these are bottles that I enjoy with friends. Now, my favorite thing about whiskey is the connective power that it has. You right there across from me could be any religion, any ethnicity, any sexual preference, any gender, and we can sit down and have a glass of whiskey together and find things to talk about.
Right. Absolutely. All day.
And so that's what I love about whiskey is the communal experience. And so that's why I have a collection is I want people to come over to my house. I love hosting. I love people being there. They get to try whatever they want to try. And we just sit around the fire or whatever it is and just enjoy the community that it brings. That's cool. And that's why I love whiskey.
That's awesome.
I love the taste, but I love the experience way better.
Awesome.
And this experience has been nothing short of amazing.
Cool.
So thank you so much again for being here and for drinking some 1792 with me.
It's perfect.
Sharing your story. And man, I'm just so glad to be called a friend of yours. I hope you call me a friend.
Absolutely.
Okay. Am I listed as a friend in your phone book?
More than a friend.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're my special person. So
thank you so much. And you guys mean so much to me. And so thanks for being on the show. Episode 2, man. Like you're like one of the top dogs here.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it greatly.
Absolutely. And so, if anyone in the DFW has a ranch or residential property, you're the one to go to.
Perfect.
So
cheers.
Yeah. Cheers to you.
Good to see you.